Yes, it's weird. Okay, it works. All right. So yesterday we kind of ended up with how Hitler came to power, and then this week in 11 different political parties, right? And then people were hungry. The money was hyperinflation was bad. We're in the Great Depression. So here, Hitler uses the Jews not just to come to power, but also, once he comes to power, he's going to start acting on that. Okay, it really starts kind of slow in 1933 with the persecution of Jews. His first goal was actually to try and get the Jews to leave Germany voluntarily. Okay, so he made it difficult for them to live in Germany. Okay, and so like I said, after we finish, I'll get into more details on that. The Nazis were really good at organizing the propaganda, the meetings, the rallies, and so forth. This red and black and the swastika and the music, and then the speeches. His speeches generally started slow and calm, and then slowly he worked himself up into a frenzy. Speaking of Hitler, and then the crowd would follow along and work itself up into a frenzy, and it was a passion, and that drew more people towards him. Now, ordinary, respectable Germans watched this take place. A lot of Germans thought this guy was nuts, but pretty soon it's going to be dangerous to say that in public. Okay, that this guy's nuts. I'll show you a video at some point. How about tomorrow? A video at some point that interviews some of the Germans, and actually that might have been in the last video I showed you over the Depression. They had some German people, because there was stuff in that last video about Hitler. But anyhow, the brown shirts, the thugs beat up opponents, they assassinated enemies, and then the concentration camps were built. Okay, the first one held like 1,000 people, and then from there it's going to grow. Anybody that was anti-Nazi, so it wasn't just Jews, it was Catholics, it was Protestants that were targets of the Nazis. Anybody that disagreed with them. The church, is going to be Nazified. The Nazis are going to have people in the what do you call them? The benches. The pews. In the pews, they're going to have, officials there, Nazi government officials there, to make sure that the priests and the pastors are not saying the wrong things. Okay? Otherwise, they're going to shut it down. Okay? We are going to see the entire German society, culture, is going to change. Okay? So you've all heard of the Hitler Youth, yes? Okay. There's a term for changing the culture in German, and you know German words, okay? So I don't know if I can pronounce this, but it's called Gleichschaltung, which means equalizing. It's a coordinated effort of propaganda, terror, intimidation, Nazi infiltration of state and local governments, education, art, design, and politics will all be infiltrated by the Nazis, okay, and controlled by the Nazis. This is a one-party state, okay? So they eliminate all the other political parties. There is some tension. I don't want to get into this too deep. Inside the party, there's an event that takes place called the Night of Long Knives. When dictators become dictators, they become paranoid that somebody might want to remove them and become dictator. Okay, Stalin was paranoid. Hitler was paranoid of the powerful people around them. And so they went out and took out those people that Hitler felt were a threat to him. Now, those people helped him come to power, and then he had them killed. Okay? Stalin was notorious for killing people he thought were a threat to him. And that's usually powerful people that help them. But getting into education, and guys, this isn't going to be on. I just think it's kind of interesting to talk about it. Education in the Third Reich. They wanted to gather in the youth. Okay, Hitler's is in his 40s at this time. The curriculum in existing schools began to change. They organized schools on focused principles. Teachers were required to use the approved Nazi curriculum. Okay. Subjects that were taught in German schools: nationalism, racial ideology. For science, that's your science class. There's no difference of opinion allowed in schools, so the teachers have the Nazi curriculum. Students are not allowed to disagree. With history, they did teach Greek culture, military heroes, and blamed pretty much every disaster in human history on the Jews. Okay, at the age of 10, boys would go to they could go to the Adolf Hitler School to become leaders if they were chosen to go to the Adolf Hitler School. Now, the Hitler Youth started fairly early on, but by 1936, Hitler Youth was mandatory for all German boys and girls. So the boys from 10 to 14, okay, would go to the Hitler Youth. And if there was school and there was a Hitler Youth event, they would go to the Hitler Youth event, not school. Okay. From 10 to 14, they're teaching boys how to repair engines, how to fix things. They're teaching them how to march. They're indoctrinating them. Okay. War games, recycling, physical fitness. This is 10 to 14. Okay. When they turn 15, they start learning how to be a soldier. Okay. They're firing weapons. They're learning different weapons and so forth. Okay. 15 to 18. And by the time they're 18, they're ready to join the service. Okay. For the League of German Girls, as it was called, there were 10 to 14 and 17 to 21. You'll notice a gap of 3 years in there. 10 to 14 is called Jung Modell, okay? And basically, girls getting together, you get the Nazi indoctrination and so forth. From 14 to 17, the girls were expected to begin to marry and start bearing children for the fatherland, okay?